Ok.
Acho que somos nós, ponto. Bora começar, então, né? Qual língua que eu uso para falar? Eu acho que dá para, né? Acho que não tem inglês falante, dá para a gente falar em português, talvez. Sim? Bom, primeiramente, bem-vindos. Esse evento foi pensado, organizado por mim, pela Bárbara, com a ajuda do Fábio, que é o host aqui do CEDLA. A princípio, a gente queria aproveitar a presença da professora Maria Raquel aqui, que tem sido uma colaboradora da nossa rede de pesquisa sobre resíduos. Ela está passando uma temporada em Amsterdã, então a gente pensou em organizar um evento, e por que não, então, esse dia, que é o Dia Internacional da Reciclagem. A gente tentou estruturar uma agenda, uma programação que envolva o pessoal que está trabalhando conosco nessa cooperação de pesquisas sobre resíduos no Brasil, na Holanda e em outros países da América Latina. Esse grupo se estruturou primeiramente a partir de um programa de cooperação sobre inovação, tecnologia e intercâmbio entre o Brasil e a Holanda, promovido pelo NUFIC, pela CAPES. A princípio, começou em 2012, né? Veio uma leva de pesquisadores brasileiros para cá, junto com a Vrije University. Esse projeto teve um pequeno impacto no começo de diálogos e de pesquisas no campo dos resíduos. O projeto foi renovado em 2017, se não me engano, Carmen. E desde então também tem se promovido a vinda de pesquisadoras, e minha presença aqui, o da Bárbara, com financiamento do NUFIC. Eu vim em 2021 como pesquisador postdoc na Vrije University, e desde então, digamos que oficialmente estou encerrando esse período de postdoc também aqui. Houve uma pequena alteração em relação à programação por conta das falas, porque a Bárbara tinha preparado uma fala e tal. Eu acho que a gente poderia, se você quiser, talvez começar, ou a Carmen e a Cornélia, enquanto eu organizo o resto das apresentações. A gente está esperando também a chegada da Aline.
Não, nós podemos começar. Com essa boa notícia de que a gente pode falar em português também, é ótimo.
Certo. A gente ensaiou um jogral em inglês, mas vamos lá.
É que vocês não têm muito acesso à sala. A sala tem umas 4 pessoas.
Uhum.
Então,
e todos falam português, então tá ótimo.
Falam português. Então, acho que a gente pode improvisar, né? E depois a gente vê isso. Eu vou, então, dar a palavra a Carmen e a Chica, né? Carmen é a coordenadora do projeto no Brasil. Então, Carmen, se você puder, né, falar mais um pouco dessa introdução que eu tentei fazer em relação ao NUFIC, antes da sua apresentação.
Eu acho que você já disse o básico, quer dizer, foi um projeto muito interessante, que conseguiu levar pesquisadores brasileiros para a Holanda, em maior número do que da Holanda para o Brasil, mas vieram pesquisadores também da Holanda para o Brasil. E eu acho que a Cornélia pode começar a apresentação onde já consta alguma coisa sobre esse projeto. Cornélia.
Vocês estão conseguindo ver direitinho?
Sim.
Tá. Sim.
Ótimo. Bom, a apresentação ela está em inglês e eu inicio agradecendo imensamente o convite para poder divulgar, né, essa nossa atividade de pesquisa e também cumprimentar a iniciativa, né, do nosso querido Cris e a equipe aí na Holanda pela realização desta reunião, né? Waste has an anthropological issue, bem interessante. Bom, nós duas a Carmen e eu, vamos apresentar uma experiência de pesquisa com esse título, Report and Experience in Netherlands, and Ethnographic Look at the Circular Economy. Para quem tiver interessado, nós temos a esperança de ainda este ano termos este material divulgado no formato de um artigo na revista Vrije, da qual vocês poderão conhecer um pouco mais profundamente. E...
Chica.
Diga.
Chegou público inglês falante na sala? We have to switch to English now?
It's okay.
Yeah?
Ok.
Okay. Well.
E?
Pode continuar em português, Chica.
Certo.
É Argentina.
Bom, o nosso abstract ele é bem sucinto, mas justamente ele chama a atenção e nós vamos centrar a nossa apresentação nas duas experiências que nós tivemos de trabalho de campo na Holanda. Por um lado, um estudo de caso em Zandão, em 2019, e, por outro lado, um estudo junto à etnografia, né? Junto a companhias que trabalham com reciclagem em 2021. São períodos bem específicos, bem restritos, mas com um trabalho etnográfico bem intenso. Nós vamos expor isso com detalhes. Em relação à última ida a campo, que foi com as companhias, nós fizemos vários questionamentos, enfim, tínhamos por objetivo justamente entender como trabalham essas companhias em relação a este material, né, a esses produtos recicláveis desde a sua origem e o destino também desses produtos. É claro que, sem dúvida nenhuma, o tempo todo estávamos muito atentas a conversar com residentes, habitantes, enfim, na Holanda, tanto quanto possível, sobre suas práticas de reciclagem domésticas, privadas, tanto quanto também nos seus locais de trabalho. E este projeto, como a Carmen já iniciou a sua fala, ele é financiado pelo projeto Capsu no FIC, que vocês conhecem. Eu, de modo particular, agradeço a CarmenRial a oportunidade e ao professor Frick Colomdin por ter nos recebido na Holanda. Qualquer questão sobre o projeto, depois a professora Carmen pode... Ela já iniciou falando sobre isso, estou falando mais para as pessoas que chegaram agora, a professora Carmen pode retomar. Eu acho que é interessante também dizer que essa etnografia sobre economia circular, ela seguiu algumas questões que nós retiramos de um trabalho do professor Frick Colomdin, publicado na revista Iluminuras, uma segunda publicação na revista Iluminuras, que nós organizamos em 2020. Então, essas são as nossas questões centrais, e eu espero que a gente tenha conseguido seguir com algum sucesso esse guia, né, de esse guia de pesquisa sugerido pelo professor. E a partir daqui, eu peço para a Carmen fazer um pouco o relato da nossa experiência em Zaandam e também várias cidades holandesas. E, se for possível, dentro à medida em que eu sentir a possibilidade de voltar a participar, eu volto a me pronunciar.
Perfeito, Cornélia.
Obrigado.
Então,
Carmen, sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can you switch to English now, please, the presentation, because people coming to the...
Yes, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
We start thank you, Christian, Barbara, and Cornelia.
Okay,
we start our research in Zaandam in 2019, and we stay in the town for and our attempt was to understand the process of waste disposal and collection in a small town in Netherlands. It was a coincidence that we later found out that Zaandam was the latest town in Netherlands to have a sewage collection system. We are going to talk about that a little bit later. We went to streets to see how people deal with waste, and we talk with people that speaks in English, because neither I or Cornelia, we do not speak Dutch. But then, in what Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, the American anthropologist, would call a lucky accident, Cornelia started to talk with Spencer, who was a municipal garbage collector, and found out that he speaks in Portuguese. He was married with a Brazilian. He lived in the north part of Brazil, has a son who lived in Netherlands with him. And so this was a really good opportunity to have some questions responded about the waste collection in Zaandam. But we will also track the garbage through the streets. We look at the containers, and we try to figure out what the colors of the different containers means. And we observed, as all ethnographers does in a research situation. We also went to some cafes, bars, like the one in the museum, to try to see if there was a different kind of collection in this place. And it was a kind of surprise to us to see that the garbage was collected only a few times per week, both in the house and also in the cafes, bar, and restaurants. It's very different from Brazil, because the municipality collects the garbage every day. One of our other important interlocutors was Maria. We could not pronounce her name here in Dutch, so she told us to call her Maria. Maria showed us the archive, the digital images that there is in the library of Zaandam. And this was a very interesting, it is a very interesting collection. I think if you are interested in waste or in ancient image, you could go there and see. For instance, this photograph that we are seeing, it's black and white. It's in the beginning of the century, and we see that in the early century, the collection of wastewater was done using boats, and later house-drawn carts like this one. And of course, we see also the buckets where they collected the wastewater. Sure, a smelly bucket. And Maria told us that it was only in 1950 that a sewage collection system was installed in the city. We look at social practice, at work, how work was being done, and also tools. And this is in the bottom, you see a photo of a card. This was a very interesting discovery because this car opens the bins in the apartments for the people to put the waste there. And it's a way of controlling what kind of waste is going there. And some people feel that it's like a surveillance, a state surveillance. This is something that most of the people that we talked to did not like it. We also observed the various apparatus used in waste collection and different types of disposal. And we also talked with some entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs that have actually friendly innovations like this bike that produce energy. We are also interested in that part of the research in composting. And we visit a house in Amsterdam, and we are interested in how people deal with the organic waste and how they create composting system. And Vidal shows us in his garden, his bin with holes where he put the organic waste for composting. And we visit another one, different system at an occupation in Groningen. Plastic is one of the main problems in Netherlands. So we decided to look at that. We didn't came across waste pickers as it commons in Brazil, but we observed various ways of collecting plastic, like this boat, this school boat, and also our hotel cleaner. She would take a bag full of PET bottles, presumably to sell at the supermarket. And we also visit some big plastic waste collectors like Renew. And then in 2021, we did what James Clifford would say, an anthropology on the road, visiting different cities. Of course, this visit was, first we wrote letters, we located the companies, we wrote letters to them. The letter was not responded, but they knew what was our research about, and we are welcomed by them when we arrived at the company. Here we see two pictures, one with Mark, was very nice entrepreneur, and the other one, I don't remember the name. Do you remember, Cornelia? But doesn't matter. He was. They were telling us about how they collect the waste, what they do about it, where they sell the composting, for instance, Mark went to as far as Germany and Belgium to sell the composting that he makes at his company. And it was very interesting, these visits. And we found this fantastic place that there is in every municipality. That's a place where it's a collection station where individuals and companies dispose their waste. In some of these stations, we found out there is workers with disabilities. They were employed and they contribute with their work in a kind of retribution in exchange for the financial aid that they received from the state. They were very nice. They show us around different containers for different kind of waste. Here we have, and even animals are disposed of there. It's something similar of what I saw in France, but that we don't have a lot of this kind of waste stations here in Brazil.
3 more minutes, Carmen.
Okay, I'm finishing. We also in Groningen visited, and Barbara was our guide to occupation, one of the largest occupation building in Europe. And here we are at the recycling room with Hans, who is the head of the recycling task force. And he was showing us what kind of waste they recycle. Yes, this occupation is located in a Roman Catholic hospital and had 350 residents. The picture of the composting that we saw it before, it was from this place. And particularly Cornelia was very, very interested in renewing, because we saw tracks of renewal all over Netherlands. And it's indeed an important company, recycling company. And we visit some of their stations, talked with their employees, and also they have a very, very useful website, a lot of information. Final remarks, some of our conclusions. Privatizations plays a crucial role in the circular economy. We have to only 6% of the waste that are produced in the world are in the circular economy. And it's in Netherlands, especially, a good part of this recycling is done by private companies. Sustainable development is both an ethical principle and a source of financial profits. Yes, all the entrepreneurs that we talk about, they are in favor of a more eco-friendly planet. Circular economy benefits companies, but some individuals feel it leads to surveillance and biopolitics. This was, we had this kind of conclusion after talking with the inhabitants of apartments and houses who have their waste very controlled by the state. And finally, using Latour's idea of habitability, we think that the habitability of places, and Netherlands is one of them because of the size of the country, it's only possible if involves responsibility. That's it, Christian. Yes, we could talk about our work in Porto Alegre and Florianópolis, but that's for another time.
Yeah, we have a short time, Carmen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Shika. We have the presentation of Aline now. She's also in another event about this day from recycling, but she
prazer estar aqui.
She will come in some minutes more. What is the English? I'm sorry. Aline sent this video for this event, but she also came now in some minutes more because she's in another event for this special day, and she also will make like a online presentation. But
é prazer estar aqui participando com vocês e, em nome dos catadores de materiais reciclados e das catadoras, a gente fica muito grato por essa visibilidade, por esse compartilhamento de saber. Então, eu sou a Aline Souza, né, sou catadora da Cooperativa Recyclable. Atualmente estou presidindo a Centercoop DF, que é uma central de cooperativa de catadores aqui em Brasília. E também represento o Movimento Nacional de Catadores, componho lá uma comissão nacional que reúne mais de 30 lideranças de catadores do Brasil, e fui eleita, também reeleita, da Secretaria Nacional da Mulher e Juventude da Unicatadores, e agora, ano passado, em abril, fui também eleita no Panamá, juntamente com Severino de Lima, delegada de uma das secretarias da RediLacre. A RediLacre é a União dos Recicladores dos Países Latino-Americanos, e lá eu fui eleita delegada da Secretaria Operativa, junto com o Severino, e juntamente com mais 2 catadores e recicladores do Panamá. E é isso, quero que muito contribuir com vocês. Acho que a troca aqui vai ser bem bacana, né? A troca, assim, eu gosto muito, e ainda mais a área da pesquisa, pessoas que têm essa especialização na de resíduos. A gente está tendo um trabalho agora com a Holanda, com a Dinamarca, né, por meio da Universidade de Brasília, o nosso interlocutor, o professor dos Reis, e aí é bom que a gente já está aqui em sintonia, né, já tem um trabalho já próximo desse país com o Brasil. Quando trata, se refere à nossa política nacional de resíduos, quando traz à tona essa discussão da remuneração e da prestação de serviços cooperativos, eu gosto muito de falar, porque é a minha área, é a área que eu estou diariamente pautando e reivindicando, e acompanhando, fiscalizando. Então, eu gosto muito de falar essa parte. Eu acho que são várias formas de se ver essa questão da formalização do serviço prestado por meio das cooperativas e o incremento que pode ser agregado a essa prestação de serviço, para a gente conseguir, em conjunto, porque nós não somos os exclusivos solucionadores da questão dos resíduos sólidos, né? A gente é parte da solução. Então, tudo começa quando a gente encontra nas políticas públicas os nossos prestadores, nossos executores dessa política, que tem esse entendimento real do que preconiza as políticas em si, né? Que busca essa visibilidade e essa formalização de toda essa atividade econômica exercida. Então, a remuneração pelo serviço prestado, ela pode ter vários formatos. No caso de Brasília, aqui, na Centercoop, ela veio dentro, ela estava composta dentro de um pacote chamado Plano de Transição do Encerramento do Antigo Lixão, né, da Cidade Estrutural. Então, dentro dessas tratativas que nós tivemos de erradicar o lixão, aqui em Brasília, que era o segundo maior lixão, inclusive, da América Latina, veio dessas tratativas a todas as necessidades que teriam que serem implementadas através desse fechamento. E aí estava lá a contratação dos catadores, das cooperativas, a organização dessas cooperativas, a implantação da coleta seletiva, o fortalecimento do programa de coleta seletiva, a estruturação dessas cooperativas, conseguir construir galpão, conseguir equipamentos, conseguir treinamento, conseguir aperfeiçoamento na gestão, suporte técnico, tudo faz parte de um planejamento, né, com tudo que está previsto nas políticas, não só a 12305, mas a 11445, que é a Política Nacional de Saneamento Básico, que garante ali, desde 2007, garante ali o serviço prestado do catador como prioridade no processo de contratação e com dispensa de licitação, até a parte que garante o acesso às receitas acessórias, que aí entra a questão da logística reversa, que aí entra a questão de prestação de serviços em grandes geradores, que aí entra a questão também da compensação do gás carbônico, né? A gente entrar nesse mercado também, compensação do gás, do CO2. Então, em Brasília, eles entenderam que remunerar os catadores por serviço prestado, dar continuidade a essa remuneração, seria por meio de pagar no processo de coleta, tratamento e destinação correta dos recicláveis, né? Aí ele paga, aqui em Brasília tem uma metodologia de pagar R$ 304,00 a tonelada desse material recuperado pelos catadores e ingressado na cadeia produtiva. Mas ele não paga em si pelo serviço no geral, né? Porque há um serviço prestado. Por exemplo, a gente recebe aqui no Complexo Integrado de Reciclagem 1.100 toneladas de resíduos. Eu falo resíduos porque aí vai sair várias frações, né? E aqui, esses catadores do complexo, que são 460, que trabalham aqui em 11 cooperativas, em 2 turnos, a gente só consegue recuperar 40% dessas 1.100 que chega. Ou seja, a parte maior foi a parte que estava contaminada, ou que era a parcela que não deveria estar aqui, que nem deveria ter chegado na linha de produção dos catadores. E essa grande parte de 60% são orgânicos, são materiais que deveriam ter tido um tratamento, uma atenção diferenciada para não chegar na coleta dos recicláveis. E o percentual menor são os rejeitos. E esse rejeito, a gente também tem um percentual muito triste para divulgar, que desse rejeito que está englobado dentro desses 60%, eles 24,9% são plásticos, né? E esses plásticos, eles não foram recuperados pelos catadores, eles não fazem parte dos 40% de recicláveis. Por quê? Porque são plásticos que alguns não têm reciclabilidade, ou seja, a indústria não absorve ele novamente, ou alguns que têm baixa reciclabilidade por questões de desvalorização do preço desse próprio material, ou porque ele esbarra na questão tributária e aí cai na inviabilidade econômica, né, e logística. Então, se a gente passar a entender que o catador ele presta um serviço no tratamento e na separação dessas frações, para ele acessar em si o produto real dele, que é o reciclável, ele executou um serviço ali. E esse serviço precisa ser pago. O contrato que a gente tem em Brasília hoje, ele não paga por esse serviço, ele paga o processo de tratamento do reciclado. E o tratamento do que a gente passou pelas nossas mãos, dos 60%, do orgânico e do rejeito, quem pagou esse serviço? Ninguém. Então, hoje, eu estou aproveitando toda essa visibilidade que surgiu com a faixa, tanto para a sociedade nos conhecer melhor, conhecer o nosso trabalho, mas a gente também utilizar esse espaço para a gente começar a pautar a real valorização do catador, tanto da parte econômica e social. Então, a gente requer hoje que o Estado, por ser um serviço público de relevância social e para a sociedade, e ganhos econômicos aí são, né, desonerados, a gente entende que o Estado deveria pagar pelo menos um salário mínimo para cada catador e catadora que está exercendo essas atividades que podem ter, se pensar nessa questão da remuneração do catador. E como incremento, né, para a gente evoluir nos percentuais nos estados de reciclagem, ou seja, Brasília gera por dia 2.400 toneladas de resíduos e que parte desses resíduos vai para as cooperativas. Mas hoje Brasília ainda enterra 500 toneladas de materiais recicláveis no aterro sanitário de Samambaia. Como que a gente vence e diminui esse percentual que vai para o aterro? Infelizmente, as pessoas não entendem, mas o catador, a gente, quando está na ponta, a gente sabe que o princípio do problema está na escolha da sociedade em destinar ou não o resíduo de forma correta, nos dias corretos, para seguir o seu fluxo correto. Então, a gente precisa, antes de implantar qualquer sistema de coleta seletiva, implantar qualquer sistema de coleta, né, comum, a gente precisa trabalhar a questão da orientação da sociedade. A educação ambiental tem que ser prioridade, ela tem que ser o primeiro passo. A adesão e a conscientização da sociedade nesse processo primário, a gente vai conseguir ter resultados nas próximas etapas. Então, quanto menos se investir na educação ambiental, quanto menos orientar a sociedade, a gente vai ter um resultado muito, muito baixo de reciclagem no Brasil, nos estados e municípios. As pessoas colocam muito essa questão, poxa, ainda a terceira geração de catadora e não mudou, não avançou. Na verdade, as pessoas, elas entendem muito pouco dessa nossa realidade, tanto pessoal como coletiva, né? Então, primeiro ponto, não se trata de mim, da minha avó, da minha família, se trata de um todo, se trata da categoria. Então, é um avanço coletivo. E assim, eu gosto muito de colocar que, enquanto a gente estiver seguindo esse formato de economia linear no Brasil, que a gente não consegue envolver todos os atores necessários para a gente conseguir evoluir tanto na parte de política pública, tanto na parte de adesão dos seus responsáveis e corresponsáveis, e os atores ali, desde o início da cadeia da produtiva até o final, a gente vai ser difícil encontrar visivelmente, sim, as próximas gerações, avanço nessa questão dos catadores no Brasil. E aí eu te falo que, se você colocar, como se você colocasse na linha do tempo, a avó da Aline, quando era carroceira, quando estava utilizando a tração animal ali, quando estava acessando o resíduo por meio da abordagem na lixeira, para ela estar hoje dentro de uma cooperativa capacitada, com EPIs, tendo dignidade de ter um escritório, de estar numa esteira, de ter um banheiro para usar, de ter toda a segurança que ela tem dentro de uma cooperativa estruturada, né, e está recebendo pelo contrato, ou seja, tem catadores que têm o INSS pago por meio desse trabalho dentro de cooperativa. Porque as políticas públicas no Brasil, elas, infelizmente, não estão voltadas para esse viés econômico, né, do trabalho econômico, para pessoas físicas, elas estão voltadas, no caso, para as pessoas jurídicas. Então, os catadores que estão de forma autônoma, infelizmente, eles teriam que ingressar em uma pessoa jurídica para eles acessarem os direitos dessas políticas. Né? E um catador de rua, o avanço maior que eu vejo na nossa família foi isso, foi a nossa família, junto com outros catadores, entenderem que, para a gente conseguir acessar as políticas de direito, teria que se organizar por meio de uma cooperativa e aí começar uma nova luta, que era a luta de reconhecimento, de estruturação, de remuneração e tudo mais. Então, avanço eu vejo por isso. Mas eu também aproveito o momento para dizer e para provocar que quantas gerações serão necessárias, isso eu falo não só no Brasil, mas no contexto geral, quantas gerações serão necessárias de catadores para a sociedade entender que ela é a principal responsável da decisão ali do percurso do circuito do resíduo. Né? Todo mundo tem a decisão do resíduo se caminhar no circuito certo ou no circuito errado, parte do princípio da população, que é o consumidor primário. Então, quanto mais a população não se importar com o resíduo, mais gerações de catadores vão ser necessárias para poder resolver corrigir isso, sabe?
Esse foi o vídeo que ela mandou. This is the video que a Aline sent. Now we are trying to get in contact, but I think we can continue with the presentations. And now we have a here, and I think you can make your presentation, and then we can make like a huge conversation about the people. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have your presentation here. I will open it. You prefer the PDF or the PowerPoint? Yeah, the same? Yeah. Okay. Open. Okay. Como que eu faço a leitura completa aqui? É apresentação de slides. Here you have. Ele tá aqui, ele tá na live do YouTube, ele tá aparecendo na tela inteira, tá? Mas você tem uma visão daqui, ó, da tua fala, tá? Aí você pode ir trocando aqui mesmo, tá? Tá. Eu vou sentar aqui do teu lado e você vai ler, pode ser?
Hi, I'm MariaRaquel, I'm at UERJ. So first, I'd like to thank Christian and CEDLA for the invitation to be here today. I'm really glad with this opportunity to dialogue with all these inspiring women here. So it's a great pleasure to me. For the past 13 years, I have been exploring waste as an anthropological issue and as an anthropological object. So here I present a brief overview of my research trajectory in this field to highlight some of the theoretical, ethnographic, and political issues that waste prompt us to reflect upon. So the first part of the presentation, I discuss waste as a material object and the issues of value indeterminacy. And in the second part, I propose waste as city maker through the lens of urban infrastructures. And in the third part, I explore the politics of waste, proposing an anthropology of waste as a field of study, but also as a kind of politics of action. So to conclude, I present the work of the lab I coordinate, the ResiduaLab. So,
yeah.
In 2010, when I started my PhD research in cultural anthropology, I was interested in thinking about what we call garbage. But I was interested in garbage as an everyday object. So something that runs through our lives in many ways. And this was an object that really intrigued me and aroused my anthropological curiosity. So this research of my PhD results in the book O Avesso do Lixo, something like The Hidden Side of Garbage, Materiality, Value, and Visibility, available for download at the UFRGS publishing website. But I'm not going to talk exactly about garbage here. I don't use this word garbage for conceptual, ethnographic, and political reasons that I will explain. I prefer to talk about waste. The category garbage has a strong moral charge. It stigmatizes. There is a negative imaginary that relates garbage to dirt and disease, and garbage is supposedly that which is useless and worthless, and this, as I will show, is a mistake. In addition, it's a generic category. So when we call something garbage, what do we know about the object? Nothing, because garbage can be anything. So first, I reflect on garbage as a category. This category operates kind of contaminates morally and prevents our appreciation of the material properties and qualities of the objects. But from the anthropological perspective, the materiality really matters. So my first proposal was to discard the category garbage in order to think otherwise. A second initial difficulty was finding a place to conduct the ethnographic research. Why? Besides the categorical problem, but related to it, connected to it, I realized that garbage was a hard object to capture because it was always escaping. So when we call something garbage, it has an effect. It produces a specific relation to the object, which is a non-relation. It's a no more relation. So the thing is progressively removed from our space, from our life. Thus, garbage appears as a marginal object. To develop my research, I had to find a place where these objects were not marginal, but central. When we throw something away, this away is always somewhere specific. And in global South countries, like Brazil, these spaces are dumps and landfills. The situation is both curious and paradoxical. Despite the monumentality of waste mountains that grow in these spaces, they pass unnoticed, as if they were invisible. This ambiguity is characteristic of waste. Despite its material accumulation, waste is inscribed in regimes of invisibility and is pushed to the urban margins. So I think of modern waste management systems as technologies of concealment. This is because they only displace objects as a solution to supposedly eliminate the problem. The result is their elimination from our field of vision, with the removal of discarded materials from the range of senses like smell and sight, but also their removal of our field of reflection and action. So in 2011, I went to Jardim Gramacho. Sorry. I went to Jardim Gramacho to conduct my fieldwork. This neighborhood in Duque de Caxias City, next to the capital Rio de Janeiro, was the site of one of the largest garbage dumps in South America for 24 years. The 14 months I spent there was the last in which it functioned as the centerpiece of waste management system for the entire metropolitan region. Here is the Jardim Gramacho dump. So the Jardim Gramacho landfill was planned by the military government in 1970s. At its inauguration, however, it was already being used as a dump. At the time of my field work, the dump operated 24/7 and received approximately 9,000 tons of waste per day. The mountain of waste at the site was 40 meters high and a population of at least 1,600 catadores worked there. In my ethnography, so this is a map situating Jardim Gramacho here in red, and here the capital, Rio de Janeiro. This was a view of the dump. So in my ethnography, I chose to think of waste in its materiality and understand its trajectories from the perspective of the catadores, people who lives from the sorting, collecting, collecting, sorting, and selling of waste recyclable materials, like Aline. So viewed this way, as opposed to worthless and useless, waste proved to be potential things of value in potential, characterized by process of indeterminacy. So waste perform a complex role in the formation of value. They are characterized by process of indeterminacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Process of indeterminacy, introduced by the gap or the moment where the value is yet to be decided. So as I argued, indeterminacy makes waste a transitive object, subject to deviations in its trajectories and reversals in the status that transforms its value. And catadores has a central role in this process of recreation of value. So in my research in Jardim Gramacho, catadores were the fundamental mediation between the waste management systems centered in the dump and the big recycling economy in metropolitan Rio. They effectively, through their hands, recreated the value of the discarded objects. The work of catadores, historically disqualified, is based on a sensible knowledge of the properties of these things developed to the everyday intimate relationship with these materialities. So this knowledge and the practices they entangled led to an artisanal, capillary type of waste management that proved highly efficient. Catadores was responsible for the emergence of the recycling economy in Brazil, which became the world leader in recycling of aluminium, for example, with rates of almost 98% in 2012. And in June of 2012, on the eve, I returned to keep this. On the eve of Rio Plus 20 conference, the Jardim Gramacho dump was closed, reconfiguring waste management in metropolitan Rio. The new waste disposal center in Seropédica was waste-to-energy based and did not allow catadores. The dump was transformed into a biogas plant by the corporation, which acquired the right to exploit the methane for 15 years. The catadores mobilized to maintain their right to work in cooperatives and to receive financial compensation. So taking the case of the closure of Jardim Gramacho, that was one of the first case of closure in Brazil. I take the closure of Jardim Gramacho landfill as an example to move the discussion to its second part, which is waste as a city maker. In my work, waste is a privileged analytic framework to think about cities. In many different ways, waste shape urban boundaries, inequalities, infrastructures, and power relations. So my argument is that waste makes cities and makes politics. Based on ethnographic material, I will present the concept of residual infrastructures that I have proposed in my work. As an analytical tool, its benefit of the concept is to bring into focus the residual dimension, that is, aspects, relations, and process that are neither dominant nor hegemonic, which constitutes urban infrastructures. Waste scholars like Patrick O'Hare propose to consider the closure of dump sites in the global south as enclosures of late capitalism that remove informal workers and the urban poor from the space where they obtain their livelihoods and make their lives. Waste to energy technologies, controversially sold as green, compete with the catadores for the same waste streams. So this trend to adopt waste management solutions based on the promise of technological modernization grew significantly in Bolsonaro government. Catadores now are trying to reverse the anti-catadores policies that the far-right president has adopted over the past 4 years. So once in Jardim Gramacho, I was talking with an old Black woman that I called Laura. I was interested in how the working conditions on the dump were in the past. And she said, our times of slavery here, it was deep suffering. So in dialogue with the studies of infrastructures, I analyzed the closure of Jardim Gramacho dump as an event that extends in time and articulates past and future temporalities, allowing continuities and discontinuities to be identified. So this allowed to broaden the analysis to colonial Rio de Janeiro, where enslaved Black people operated the urban sanitation and waste disposal systems. Inspired in Abdul Malik Simone notion, I propose to think of catadores as people as embodied infrastructures, to qualify them as a constitutive part of waste social technical systems. This brought into focus the material, racial, and bodily dimensions that make up urban infrastructures and the ways in which structural inequalities persist in the political dynamics of the present. So the notion of residual infrastructures helps to restore this marginal and invisible dimension that make up infrastructures, rendering apprehensible the opaque relations that urban processes and their disputes. Despite being central to the functioning of waste management systems, the people who informally support them are perceived as undesirable and alien to such systems. So consequently, they suffer systematic attempts at exclusion from them. On that basis, I could identify the presence of colonialisms in modern waste management systems and how these reproduce racialized structures of inequality in cities. To oppose this process of exclusion, catadores have organized themselves in political movements around the country and worldwide, as Aline showed us previously in the video. So catadores are fighting for participation in the formulation and operation of public waste policies. And it's remarkable that the circular economy in Global South are made for them. So the emergency of the ecological paradigm represented for them the possibility of escaping the Etienist perspective and provided them with new discursive, legal, and political tools. The models of popular recycling, this selective waste collection, where we call solidary selective collection, and reverse logistics that they propose represent not only alternative livelihoods, but also alternative city projects. A project based on values of human rights, social inclusion, and environmental justice, and on the confrontation of the huge inequalities that is characteristic of Brazil. So, in different researches, I have investigated the history of waste mountains and how they make cities in specific ways. In my article, Toxicity of Steel, I analyzed the case of a mountain of industrial waste generated by the activity of the National Steel Company, CSN, in the city of Volta Redonda. It's here in red, and here the capital. in the southern region of state of Rio. The notion of residual infrastructures placed at the center of the discussion the invisible dimension of steel production, characterized by the toxicity of waste and its agency. The analysis of the life of toxic waste and its agency allowed us to ethnographically trace the latent connections between company and territory, as well as the power relations and political disputes that cut across them. So in this case, the city as a whole, and here you can see the CSN here at the center of the city as a whole and its public space were considered as a constitutive part of the steelmaking infrastructure, so that the relations that operated in the opaque side of the regime of visibility of the infrastructure could be restored. With the concept of residual infrastructures, what operates in practice from a marginal position can be treated with analytical centrality. The concept emphasizes connection, interdependence, and reversibility in addressing the relationships between supposed margins and centers. So in this sense, the concept has an integrative character, assuming as part of a single infrastructure, broader spaces, city spaces, intermunicipal regions, and other connections that operate in practice. So this approach directly connects waste to the production of urban landscapes. It provides an entry to understand the process of urbanization in their specificities and differences, and the waste mountains also mobilize different waste politics by the populations affected by their existence. So we pass to our final part. Here is the waste mountain of toxic waste in Volta Redonda. Well, in this final part, I briefly discussed the anthropology of waste as a field of knowledge and the political dimension of waste. The collection organized by CarmenRial, The Power of Garbage, Poder do Lixo in Portuguese, was pioneering in highlight the political potential of waste, contributing to the development of the field of anthropology of waste in Brazil. And my latest work, the article Anthropology of Waste, a research agenda for the study of the cities in the era of climate change, composed a dossier, Utopias of Recycling and Circularity, organized by Christian and Barbara, that unfortunately it's not here, that coming soon in Vibrant, the virtual Brazilian anthropology journal. So in this article, I make a broader theoretical discussion by proposing a definition of anthropology of waste as an epistemology of the Anthropocene, as well as a politics of knowledge oriented towards action in a world marked by climate change. So in my research, waste is a privileged analytic framework to think about our contemporary social world. And in my point of view, waste is a transgressive object because it destabilizes and challenges the boundaries between nature and culture, but also the boundaries between humans, non-humans, between bodies and environment, and also the boundaries of cities. I argue that waste as a field of studies has the potential to renew the reflection on cities and the ways of thinking about urban contexts in face of climate crisis. In this sense, waste pushes us not only to think anthropologically, but also to act politically. So, to conclude, I would like to present the ResiduaLab, the laboratory of social studies of waste that I coordinate with Mariana Cavalcanti at State University of Rio de Janeiro, UERJ. The ResiduaLab is focused on urban studies and environmental issues, but also works with visual anthropology. So I invite you to visit our website, where you can find our research team, our academic production, have access to the latest news, and also browse through our blog. So as a result of the theoretical reflection forged in my research trajectory, the categories recuperate, contaminate, and persist was conceived as guiding metaphors for navigating the content of our site. They refer to modes of action of waste in the world, and that operates as analytical principles for our visitors. So we invite our visitors to think as how waste moves and exists in the world. So finally, I take this opportunity to mention our most recent initiative. We are organizing the first forum of anthropology of waste of South America, where Cornelia and the group of Carmen will be collaborating. And the objective of the forum is to promote the dialogue about waste in the social sciences, because it's a field historically oriented towards the hard sciences, and also to promote the political debate about existing challenges and initiatives in the regional scenario. The idea is to strengthen the institutional articulation of researchers, research groups, activists, multiple actors, and civil society entities that work on waste in South America. So you are all invited. And here, the ResiduaLab webpage. So it's thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. You can stay here. Okay. Yeah, please. Well, now we have like some minutes for a discussion, questions, any kind of. No one? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for the nice presentation. Then I was the whole time that you're presenting now, I was thinking about the previous presentations on the experience in the Netherlands, which is completely different, right? The context is very different, and also how to think about waste or the garbage and the circular economy, all these more techno solutions of circular economy that we see so much in the global north, right? Talking about how to close the circle in a very technical way, and taking the humanized perspective completely out of the picture, right? And here is so humans is so strongly connected to this process. As a group, I was thinking, how did you discuss these differences? Because I understood this new Capitalist project is also trying to bring these two different, perspectives, the global north and maybe global south, and try to see where they converge and where they find the differences. So I was just wondering if you reflected on that and the differences, and culturally speaking, also from the anthropological point of view, how also you see in the global north waste is conceptualized by also collectively or individually, because I also see that it's very much individual based here, the experiences that they saw, and what you see something very political and very cultural. Now that there's this common perspective, the urban counts very much I see in your story. So I just invite you to reflect a little bit on those two different worlds. Yeah.
Can I answer, or Carmen or Cornelia?
Yeah, I try to talk with Aline, because I think she's very important also, but she have a problem with the connection, and yeah. But of course, yeah, the person of a waste speaker in Latin America, it's fundamental, for the thing, circular economy and all these kind of recycling project, political project also. And this is something we don't see here in the Netherlands, this is more a reality for big companies, and they have another kind of a destiny for but yeah.
Yeah, I think here it's much more connected. I should connect with this big, with this individual consciousness of how to act ecologically as an ethical principle of citizens, but and it's also really connect with these big corporations, as Carmen and Cornelia showed us. And I always think that this question is very interesting, because it's really we can see very clearly here this technological, it's quite a we are always it's difficult to escape of this technological belief or illusion that market all the modernity and the arising of the modern world was based on the illusion that we could control the world and dominate, mastering the nature by the technological innovations. So it's what I'm arguing in this latest article, that I hope it's soon it can be
July, in the end of July.
It's when I talk about waste management systems, modern waste management systems as technologies of concealment, it's that waste, there's no place to waste in these modern cosmologies. So it was always being turning invisible. It was always inscribed in regimes of invisibility. For us, it was really important to development of capitalism that people could not see waste and think on waste. And now in the climate change era, it's not possible to don't think on waste anymore. So and we are also facing the limits of this technological stuff and the limits of this technological belief in mastering the world. So that's why I'm thinking on waste as an object that can create another kind of epistemologies to understand the world, epistemologies of the Anthropocene, because the concept of Anthropocene is based on we cannot escape anymore from facing the reality of these consequences of all the construction of the modern era. So and one aspect of that is that this kind of epistemology has to be oriented, in my view, what I'm proposing, by action, but also should be an epistemology produced, and that's why I think anthropology knowledge to do that, is that anthropology, this kind of knowledge has to be produced with people and for people, and with people that are facing the problems of and the consequences that are suffering the harm and damage of this process. Seems so it's with those people that we can make this understanding and produce this knowledge about how to deal with this world, and is in permanent crisis. And I think very funny how here people are always thinking it's inside this belief that it's the way it's technological. And to me, it's clear that technology can
Have a limit.
have limits, and it's also part of the problem. So if there is something that people of us in the global south can fornecer, can furnish, can provide, is this kind of skill, ability to deal with problems of this world. That we are specialists in on that, and to orient our gaze, our vision to people, and not only humans, but we have to consider all kinds of human beings, all kinds of beings and lives that are being threatened by this modus operandi, modern modus operandi of that generate amounts and amounts of waste. So I think this is it. But there's a huge economical aspect also in the global south. There are corporates that are trying to take the solid waste as a big market and to exclude catadores. So they are always fighting, always organizing, and the movement of catadores in Brazil, the MNCA, and the movement of the national movement of recyclable material collectors was one of the first organizations in a national scale. And it's an example for other countries to how to organize and how, as Aline said, these movements are connected more and more, and to fighting for ways to deal with waste that are connected and oriented also to the principles of social inclusion, social environmental justice, and now in Brazil we are a new generation that is fighting and demanding climate justice also. So I think all these things are connected.
Thank you. I think we can, Aline is here. A gente pode aproveitar. Aline, tudo bem? Tá ouvindo a gente? Someone have a question to Aline? Yeah?
Christian?
Yeah, sure. Carmen?
No, I just have to leave in a few moments, so I'm just going to complete what has been said now. Yes, I think it's a very important question, and we have to think about a comparison between what's happening in some countries and in the north, in some countries in the south. I would not use the concept of a global north, because it's very different the ways Europe is dealing with waste and United States, for instance, who is the biggest waste producer in the world. I just give you an example. I was 2 weeks ago, I was in New York. In front of my hotel, there was a mountain of waste that reached the first floor of the building. We cannot find things like that in Europe, because there is a European policy that forbidden this kind of disposal of waste. And it's enormous, the quantity of waste produced in the United States. If we go to any restaurant, you have plastic plates, plastic glasses. So the imaginary connected with waste, it's very different, even if we consider different countries in the global north. And of course, global south and global north, it's also very different, as Raquel just explained. But I'd like to hear more of Aline, because she's here. And é prazer te encontrar, Aline. Muito bom mesmo te ver aqui e ver teu vídeo. Christian, eu devolvo a palavra para ti. I give you back. I don't know if Cornelia wants to say something. In terms of infrastructure, there is not that much different between North and South. We all have the same containers. It's incredible, because when we are visiting Renew and other big companies, we find the same waiting for a truck that we find in deposits. It's the places are not so nice, but it's almost the same process. And even for plastic recycling, I have a student who is doing research in Uruguay, and it's very close, the way they are recycling plastic in Uruguay, the way plastic is being recycled in Netherlands. But of course, if we look at people, how people are dealing with that, the waste pickers in the global south that does not exist in the global north, this is different. And that's why we have to listen to Aline.
Hi, Aline. Oi, tá ouvindo?
Oi, bom dia.
Aline, eu vou tentar fazer a tradução de algumas perguntas, talvez que vão direcionar a você, pode ser?
Pode ser. É um prazer estar aqui. Obrigada pelo convite e pelo trabalho, pela pesquisa e estudo.
Bom, para quem não conhece, a Aline, ela passou a faixa presidencial para o Lula, quando o Lula assumiu a posse, né, em representação ao movimento dos catadores. Ela é uma figura central hoje na política, na construção de uma política, né, que inclua os catadores dentro do processo. E eu acho que o vídeo que ela apresentou faz esse link entre as infraestruturas, né, as antigas infraestruturas de depósito de lixo, né, e a conexão com as cooperativas e o surgimento do catador, uma figura, como se diz, legalizada, seria? Formalizada. Né? Formalizada, né? Aline, eu acho que seria interessante, talvez, ouvir um pouco dessa trajetória da terceira geração de catadores, né, que vem tentando, lutando, se organizando para a formalização do trabalho, da categoria que vocês estão tentando criar, eu vi que você esteve ontem na Câmara de Deputados, né?
Sim. Bom dia a todos e todas. Eu peço desculpa aí pelo atraso, eu estou participando de 2 eventos simultâneos aqui. Lançamento do livro dos Recicladores de Sonhos, aqui no Congresso. Meu nome é Aline Souza, como o Christian já apresentou, eu sou a 3ª geração de catadora na família. Minha mãe e minha avó são catadores, meu pai já falecido era catador. E atualmente estou dirigindo uma central de cooperativa de catadores, que é a Centercoop, é uma das maiores centrais em questão de estrutura, né, e em quantidade também de cooperativas aglomeradas aqui em Brasília, mas no Brasil ela é uma das maiores centrais. A gente tem 1.000 catadores associados a essa central. 72% são mulheres e uma grande parte também são mulheres negras, né? e a reunião de família. E nós estamos na missão de fazer gerenciamento de resíduos provenientes da coleta seletiva do Distrito Federal, feito por empresas contratadas e por nossas cooperativas. O Distrito Federal ele tem 33 regiões administrativas e nós, catadores, por meio dessa contratação de serviço, nós estamos em 21 cidades satélite. A gente quase que está todo fazendo coleta. A nossa expertise, ela vem desse know-how de prestação de serviço, de tratamento de resíduos.
Acho que é a conexão dela, né? Se ela já caiu uma vez, eu acho que ela aqui. Ah, pois é, gente. Esse evento estava pensado em 4 mãos, teve que ter feito em 2. Eu vou aproveitar a colocação que o Fábio fez, a Maria, e aproveitar também a presença dela aqui, porque não tem essa intervenção da internet, que eu acho interessante o trabalho que ela vem fazendo e o trabalho que ela vem... In English, okay. Sorry.
I understand. I also understand.
Well, because I think we can see, for example, for the Carmen's work and also some like some individual researchers like trying to, like you, for example, when you start your trajectory as an anthropologist and start with this, you don't have like a feel about this area, and you are trying to understand now after like some years with these individuals research, like how it worked, how it worked in Brazil, and how is the dialogue also with the people from Latin America or North. What can you see now, for example, what is the political situation now of this field in anthropology in Brazil?
Well, it's interesting because when I decided I want to make a PhD research about garbage, some people uncommon object in anthropology was there was some ethnographies, isolated works, but there was no kind of a field based on waste in anthropology in Brazil. So I was always, I passed many years. It was in 2010 when I started my PhD, and I passed many years feeling like someone out of place. There was no place for me. I was always trying to adapt to participating in Congress. So I realized that it's not exist this field in Brazil. It was different in Argentina, where I met colleagues, and I saw that there was already a field more consolidated with history and some individuals, some groups, but in Brazil, no. So I think this project of this convenio, this with Carmen, Cornelia, with Netherlands was important to.
Did you say the agreement between the FIC and CAPES?
Yes,
okay.
This agreement was really important to create.
Founding this idea about anthropologies of waste.
Yep, I think that it was important, principally to form a group.
Oh yeah.
People who understand who has an understanding as a collective that working on issues related and researchers related to waste. So it was a group. So
Yeah.
I think that this initiative and this agreement was important to delineate a group that was thinking as researchers focused on waste, and also the coletanias and
Special issues.
the Carmen, this group published
The edit book.
a book about waste with many different researchers focused on different types of waste. Also was important. I think it was a book that inaugurated a field in Brazil, and somehow, but we have many isolated works, ethnographies on this issue, but not a field, in fact. And now I'm perceiving, my understanding is that this field is emerging in Brazil with more a clear shape.
Yeah, that's happened when we public the call for this special issue. We received like a large work from people from every part, like also from Latin America countries, other, and they don't know each other. I think your work, it's come with more this perspective about, okay, what is this field? What is the political issue behind all this, and who is especially the actors here?
Yeah, but I think even internationally, but more internationally, here or outside Brazil, outside Latin America, even globally, the field that I call waste studies or discard studies are recent too. We have 15 years, but in this 15 years, there were a boom of researches and initiatives and works in many parts of worldwide oriented center exploring this object, and it's a field very, very rich.
It is.
I really feel that waste is. It was my how can I say, intuition. I had this intuition 13 years ago, and now I'm sure that this intuition was not wrong. I was right in believing that waste is a really rich and insightful anthropological object. So I think we can see and we can prove that when we face how this field was developed and is being developed in many
and also
regions.
I think it came stronger with this agenda about climate change, sustainability, it's a whole of issues push the waste also as a strong object or research area.
Yeah, but that I think there is a difference, because I think it's different. It's different when we put waste at the center of the analysis, because we can discuss many things, the disasters related to extraction and mineração. We can discuss many things that are related to waste in some way, but it's different when we take waste at the center of the understanding of the world. So in my work, it's what I'm trying to do. It's to construct somehow this understanding that waste is a good point of start point to think the world, and it's an object that, because of this heterogeneous materialities, waste can be anything and can be everything. So we can access all spaces, so I think it's important, this movement, when waste becomes a more acceptable research object, and I think it's good to explore it, and it can lead us to other ways of understanding world, and also to acting, because I'm really concerned that we have to act somehow.
Yeah.
We can stand being becoming in a collapse.
Well,
Sorry.
no, thank you very much, Maria, and thank you all of you for here. I think we have they have a compromise now in this room at 6. And yeah, thank you.
I thank you.
Bye, Carmen.
Bye, thank you. Nice to hear you. Maria-Raquel, it's a pleasure to hear you.
I hope to see you personally.
I don't know. Cornelia will be there.
Okay. So thank you. Bye-bye.